Guys, MKBHD here. I bet I'm not the only one to speak to the CEO of Microsoft while wearing an Apple Watch. And I bet I'm not the only one to chat with Bill Gates with an Apple Watch on. And I bet he's also probably noticed them.
What is that?
It's not that I'm trolling. Nobody doing that is trolling. It's just that it's the default at this point. The Apple Watch is everywhere. It's the default smartwatch for the iPhone, which is also everywhere. So after a couple of my tweets, some of you guys wanted to know my full thoughts on Apple Watch Series 5, the latest and greatest version of it that just came out for this holiday season. Spoiler alert, I've already tweeted most of my thoughts, but I'll put them all in one video here in one place. So I have the 44mm instead of the 40 for that bigger face, bigger battery, even though I don't have a huge wrist. I think it looks just fine. And I went with space gray aluminum, so I keep that dark matte finish. And I've had no durability issues on my other aluminum Apple Watches. And yes, just to get it out the way, I do wear it on my right wrist, even though I'm a righty. I guess I'm just backwards like that. So if you remember that Apple event just a couple weeks ago, there weren't really all that many new features with the new Apple Watch. You know, there's a new brushed titanium finish that looks really cool, and there's also the other ceramics and stainless steel and things like that. And there's some other new features and some new bands, but really the main new feature of Apple Watch Series 5 is the always-on display. So technically speaking, this new Apple Watch is able to maintain the always-on display with a new display technology that keeps it lit up dimly, but lit up all the time at a variable refresh rate. So it's called LTPO, which stands for low temperature polysilicon and oxide, which doesn't really matter as much as just knowing that this involves a special controller and certain hardware that's only in Apple Watch Series 5. So there can't be a software update to make the Series 3 or Series 4 do always on. It's just in Series 5. So the display itself, it'll look just as good and it'll get just as bright, and it's just the familiar OLED you're used to looking at, but now it's always on. So typically when you're using an Apple Watch, the OLED refreshes at 60 frames per second, 60 hertz. That's why animations are smooth, everything looks normal, and the second hand, if you have one on your clock face, sort of smoothly rolls around in a circle. This is still the case here with this new version, but when you stop using it or you put it down, it goes into always on mode, the display dims, and it ratchets down to refresh as low as 1 hertz, or 1 time every second, which is fine because it hides the second hand and it doesn't have to show you constantly refreshing information and things smoothly on the screen. So it can still show you the time all the time and save a ton of power by not still refreshing at 60 hertz. So okay, what are the benefits of this always on display, you may ask, if you've never used any other smartwatch? Well, if you've had an Apple Watch before, then you're already used to this gesture you have to do to get it to recognize that you're looking at it and to light up whatever your latest notification is, or to just see the time. Sometimes you can get pretty good at it doing it subtly, but it's a pretty obvious gesture. But of course, sometimes it's just kind of hard or just straight up inconvenient to do that whole gesture, and you just want to be able to glance over at it and see the time or just check something real quick without the whole obvious wrist movement. Maybe you're driving or riding a bike and don't want to switch to one hand, or maybe you're typing and you just want to look down and glance at the time without stopping. Or maybe you're in just a social situation where it'd be kind of rude to check the time with a huge sweeping gesture. So these are all real situations, and that is why people wanted always on, just the glanceability. But the most controversial trade-off here with always on is battery life. So Apple claims that the variable refresh rate is what will help you not obliterate your battery life. It's going down to this way low power mode. And it's true, it doesn't completely crush your battery, but I have definitely noticed that having the always on display, always on, does hurt your battery life. I personally went from ending the day with 50-something% left to ending a normal day with 20 to 30% left. And that's not the end of the world. That's definitely still clearly all day battery life for my usage, which is high brightness, getting plenty of notifications, frequent workouts, things like that. But I did still notice that hit. And on a day with a longer outdoor workout where it's using GPS and it's just always on, you can actually get close to killing the Apple Watch in a day, which I never did before always on. And I did some more on and off testing with this, and some of you were actually skeptical about it when I tweeted about it, saying it was the noise app in the background or some other things with software that I should check out. But I don't need any more proof than the fact that when I turned it off, I was getting to noon with 90+% battery life left, which is incredible. That's legitimately 2-day battery life that I wasn't getting when I turned always on back on. So that's something I've noticed. At this point, I kind of just turn it on when I want to and then turn it off when I know I'm gonna be having a longer day. It's only a quick couple taps away in the settings. I switch wrists sometimes, so I'm used to diving in the settings to change the wrist orientation, so I just do that often. I'll just turn always on off sometimes. So if I'm out at night, I'll usually turn it off because it's slightly annoying to be the guy with the glowing wrist all night. But in a normal day at work during the day, I'll leave it on. It's a balancing act. It's a little more thinking than I had to do before, but it's also a feature I've never had before, so I guess I'm willing to do that. Some other small thoughts. The compass built in now is pretty sweet. I will literally never use the compass app, but it is cool that it's more accurate to tell you what direction you're facing when you're using maps. And the noise app is also kind of cool. You can add a complication to your watch face or just use the app to monitor noise levels, and it'll tell you when the environment you're in has potentially damaging levels of noise. And just a thought about the Blob app chooser interface. I just gotta say, I think this might be the worst UI in any Apple product, in any tech product in like the last decade. I think we can all agree on that. I've changed it to list mode. Maybe figure out a grid mode or something for picking apps on the watch, Apple, just saying. But overall, honestly, it's kind of similar to that iPhone 11 review where like, it's an Apple Watch. Like you already know what it does. It's the same design, some subtle tweaks, and really one main new feature. I think the fact that I've disabled the always on display so often is kind of hilarious. Like if you would disable it, if you wouldn't use the always on stuff very often, then this is about as good as a Series 3 or Series 4, in which case you can pick one of those up from Apple or on Amazon for a pretty steep discount. So I'll link those below. That's a better deal. But other than that, I just kind of like the way the Apple Watch has been. It's not a necessary upgrade, but for the stuff I usually do, which is having the great display, telling the time, workouts, notifications, that's just basically it. I mean, anything extra is a bonus. Apple Watch continues to firmly deliver on all the things you expect it to. And if you've always wanted always on, then this is the Apple Watch to get. But anyway, that's about it. Quick review. But if you want the next stuff, it's coming up quick. It's Techtober. There's a lot happening. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.